Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Radia Barnes. I am a member of this committee. This is Housing and Human Services. Um, I am stepping in for our chair, Marielle Ali. She might be joining us later. If not, she will be joining us virtually. But I want to welcome everyone who has been able to join us so far. Um, I'm just going to give it maybe 2 minutes to see if some other people join, but I want to welcome everybody and just hold tight for like a minute or two and we will get started. We have a pretty short agenda, not too meaty, so we'll get right to it in just a moment. Hello, welcome. How are you? Good. Have a seat anywhere there. Hello, welcome. To just sign in and have a seat. Thank you for joining us. We have some people live and in person. Yeah, here. Thank you. Marielle, I saw your message. Okay. Our chair is on her way. I will not call the meeting to order right now because we do not have quorum, but hopefully as people start to trickle in, we will have quorum. As a quick introduction, my name is Radia Barnes. I am a member of this committee, Housing and Human Services, along with Business Development. I've been on the board for 2 years and I am a lifelong Washington Heights resident. Um, and let me see if I have any other panelists on, any other members of our. Marielle, do you want to introduce, are you able to introduce yourself? I'm not sure. Let me unmute you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, Marielle Ali here. I'm the chair of the Housing and Human Services Committee. Like Radia, also a lifelong Washington Heights native. And so thank you for joining tonight. As Radia pointed out, we have a couple of different items on the agenda this evening. And I'm on my way, so I should be there in person soon. Thank you.
Thank you. People from DS. So we have a couple guest speakers today. New York Department of Social Services will be speaking. They'll be speaking about the new shelter notifications. We have a presentation on the closure of Fort Washington Collegiate Church. We'll be discussing the Rec Guidelines Board. They recently approved a rent hike, and we're going to be putting forth a resolution. And then we'll be discussing the HPD down payment assistance grant. And then we'll move on to discuss any updates from any elected officials and representatives that that are able to join us. Right. So I think we're going to get started. Do we have, let me see who we have here. Marsha Horn. Hi, Marsha.
Hi, good afternoon. Well, good evening, everyone. Yes, thank you so much, Marcia Horn with the Department of Social Services, Department of and Intergovernmental Legislative Affairs. I know we do have the presentation. I just want to make sure everyone is on. And I know my Deputy Commissioner should be on as well. So let me just see. Jamar, if you're on, I can definitely pass it on to you. Just making sure. So no.
Jamar Hooks seems to be on.
Yes, Jamar Hooks, yes. Yes. So yes, thank you everyone for inviting us to present on the site that's coming on in the district. And that's the Wadsworth Terrace Families with Children site. And we're here with the provider to just give a presentation on the site and to answer some of your questions or concerns that you guys may have. So yeah, if you can, I will pass it on to Jamar Hooks.
Jamar, are you able to speak? Let me see what people in the chat.
So Radia, we may need to promote a couple of colleagues of Marcia. Marcia, maybe if you can let Radia know the names of all the colleagues at once, and that way they're able to kind of unmute as needed.
Sure, absolutely. So, definitely Jamar Hooks, and Zulay Mateo. So there's a couple of bit of her team that's also going to be presenting, and we also have Jennifer. Excuse me for chopping up your name, Jennifer DeVerge, Lillian Norales, David Chalos. Those are some of the individuals. If I do see any of our other team members, I will definitely flag it to you guys. Because there was a couple of events happening today, so everyone are going to try to come attend. If not, we're here to answer any of your questions. Oh, Jamar's on. So yes. Jamar, I'm going to pass it to you. I'm looking to see if I see Zulay as well.
I think there's a couple of people with the same link, so I'll probably promote all the Jennifers, and then they can change their name, or we can change their name or something, because I see 3 Jennifers, so that means that's probably just the people where they just shared the link and didn't know it was for one person.
Thank you, Tanisha. That was good because I was getting a little confused. Appreciate that. Okay, I promoted all the Jennifers. I don't see Zulay.
I am here. Thank you. I'm one of the Jennifers.
Perfect. Okay. So Marcia basically said what I was going to say. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Jamar Hooks, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs at DSS. And I'm joined by my colleague, Marcia Horn, who you already met. She's the Borough Director for DSS Intergovernmental Team. We've also been joined by our partners at Bronx Family Network, who will introduce themselves and present on the Families with Children shelter at 1 Wadsworth Terrace. As I said, the Brooklyn Family Network will present on the shelter, and then after, we can answer any questions that you and the board may have.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So I'll pass to Zulay.
Hello, good I'm not able to, for some reason, oh, let me see if I can turn my video. Yes, here we go. Good evening, 7 o'clock. This is Zulay Mateo. I'm the provider, CEO of Bronx Family Network. I need to change my name somewhere. Joining by Jennifer and also David Schloss. Jennifer is going to be presenting, so in some point, if we can make her co-host so she is able to show the presentation so she can share her screen. I'm not sure if it's possible. If not, then we will just, go as you guys want us to do. But we're looking forward to presenting. We actually, I'm looking forward to working with the community. I'm excited of this new site. I think that, it's a great place for us to house the neighbors and those that are in need in the community, as well as others. And we're looking forward to answer any questions as the community might have. Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Jennifer DeVerge. I am Director of Recreational Services for Bronx Family Network, and I'll be joining Ms. Mateo, Mr. Schloss, and any of our other Bronx Family Network teammates on this call to present a brief but hopefully informative presentation on our agency as well as the upcoming project for you guys.
Great. I went ahead and made you a co-host, so whoever's ready to make their presentation.
Awesome. We can get going. All right. Let me try and share my screen here. We're going to share. Let me know if you guys see everything on your end. Do we have the Bronx Family Network and 1 Wadsworth Terrace opening page on everyone's screen?
Yes.
All right, so let's get started. So again, I am Jennifer DeVerge. I am Director of Recreational Services at Bronx Family Network. Today, I'm going to guide you guys through a brief but informative presentation about our organization and our latest commitment, to 1 Wadsworth Terrace. If you have any questions, as Jamar had mentioned, we kindly ask that you hold them until the conclusion of our presentation. And I'm hoping to be brief, but I'm going to give you guys as much information as you may possibly need to learn some more. So we can get started here. So over the years, Bronx Family Network has rapidly become one of the city's most reliable family shelters. We take immense pride in offering a safe and welcoming environment where families can start their journey towards securing permanent housing and rebuilding their lives and with dignity and hope. As this presentation goes on, I will share some information on the screen that you are welcome to read through, but what I will be sharing verbally is not what will be on the screen. So you guys have some context behind what we are going to be sharing. Here we are going to introduce our leadership, our frontline staff. And we will start off with Zulay Mateo. She is the founder and chief executive officer of Bronx Family Network. She brings 14 years of experience, primarily in social services, having begun her career as a social services case manager herself. Next, we have David Schloss. He is founder and chief administrative officer, followed by Papa Diop, chief financial officer. And both individuals possess extensive backgrounds in finance with a particular focus on the nonprofit sector. This team is committed to ensuring that our agency aligns and adheres to the policies and procedures, as well as the budget plans that are established by the Department of Homeless Services, which we know as abbreviation DHS. Here is an overview of our shelter, of what our shelter offers in terms of services to support families and individuals experiencing homelessness. On this slide, we'd like to share an overview of common services provided, many of which include basic shelter services, case management, referrals, employment and income support, as well as other support services. And through said services, we are not only able to provide a safe place to sleep, but it's clearly a foundation for stability. And this is where we begin our services. I'll leave this on here. So if you guys would like to just briefly read through that for a second, you're welcome to do so. We will continue by sharing a bit about our staff breakdown. Each facility is managed by a dedicated program director and a director of operations. Our teams consist of social service professionals, including case managers, housing specialists, and residential aides, all dedicated to the well-being of our families. We operate a total of 12 facilities across New York City boroughs, all except Staten Island. I'm sorry, we're not there yet. Categorized as seen on the screen. We're very proud to share that Bronx Family Network started as a small team in 2018 and has since then grown to employ nearly 300 staff members. Fun fact, just so you guys know, our very first city contract was for a Families with Children site. So our growth is a reflection of our commitment to longevity and experience. And soon we look forward to welcoming 1 Wadsworth Terrace into our Bronx Family Network family. To highlight some of our powerhouse teams, our organization continues to grow and evolve. As it continues to grow and evolve, the housing team remains at the heart of our mission, ensuring that residents are supported with efficiency and respect through every stage of their housing journey. The past year has been a clear example of what dedication, teamwork, and strong coordination can accomplish. So from July 21st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, to give you guys some numbers, our team had successfully facilitated 425 move-outs, averaging about 42 per site. Since then, with the addition of a 12th facility recently, we've already reached 450 move-outs and counting because our fiscal year has not yet closed. And in short, this achievement is a direct reflection of the unwavering dedication, the coordination, and the hard work of our housing team. Their consistent efforts have been instrumental in driving these results and ensuring a smooth transition for every resident that we serve. And here are some pictures that we have highlighted specifically from our Families with Children sites, but the move-outs do move across the board to all of our facilities. To foster lasting change and build authentic trust within our communities, we anchor our work around 5 key pillars. Each is designed to ensure that we meet people where they are with dignity and purpose at the forefront of that conversation. Number one, I will go through this list briefly, and I'll just highlight one key point that we like to highlight from our key pillars. Number one is a stronger transitions out of shelter, and we do that by offering coordinated case management and trauma-informed care and ensuring individuals can exit shelter with stability and support. Number two is localized culturally relevant support, and we work closely with culturally informed organizations and deliver bilingual, culturally adapted services, ensuring that our approach reflects the identities and the needs of those that we serve. Every facility has different demographics. Many of our families and our clients speak different languages, and we want to make sure that all of the resources that we obtain and externally and internally are able to reach all of those families and no one is left out. Number three, resource and knowledge sharing. We work closely with local communities to make vital information and services more accessible, empowering individuals and families with tools for self-sufficiency. Number four is a system level impact. Our work bridges housing, healthcare, justice, and education, especially at our Families with Children sites. Recognizing that sustained progress requires aligned cross-sector collaboration that sees the full picture, and that's important to us. And of course, last but not least, we have trust and engagement, my personal favorite, which means that we build trust by starting with internal reflection in order to grow outward through community liaisons and peer navigation. Here, community linkages is something that we absolutely must talk about when we talk about our services because they are crucial to our shelters in order to enhance support systems. This task is handled by a dedicated recreational team, which I oversee, which is vital to our shelters, especially for our families with children. They provide structured activities that help reduce stress, promote well-being, and offer a sense of normalcy during challenging times. I can't begin to tell you guys how important this is for our children who go through STH and shelters and facilities often. And so we try our very best to have a sense of normalcy or provide them with a sense of normalcy while they are residing in our facilities. To ensure diverse, high-quality experiences, the recreational teams often partner with external organizations, local volunteers, and professionals to offer a variety of engaging activities, such as art, sports, therapy sessions, or educational workshops tailored to the needs of the shelter's residents. And again, because the demographics do change across our facilities, the needs of the children and the families will also change, and we try our best to adhere to that. By investing time in creating community linkages, we support the mental and emotional health of our families. Here on this slide, I have highlighted some of our most recent or most impactful linkages with either external nonprofit agencies. One of which I love very much is our partnership with the Coalition for the Homeless. They do provide services for our residents, but most importantly, they also provide our children with the opportunity to attend, sleepaway camps during the summer. Something, as a child, I love the idea to support this initiative because as a child who was raised in Brooklyn, I come from immigrant parents, I never had the opportunity to do so because we just couldn't afford it. And so being able to work with an organization that can provide this to families and children is amazing. And just to highlight something that's even better than that is one of the things that's the most important is that this offer is not off the table once our children leave go into stabilized housing. Because they started off as attendees while they were in shelter, they are still able to attend these programs as they leave shelter. And I think that that's really important to highlight. Again, we work closely with the Department of Education. New York Public Library has been instrumental in allowing our families to obtain resources. For those that can't get to them, we find ways to bring it to our facilities on site, right? So Queens Public Library, Brooklyn Public Library has been able to provide library buses that come to our sites and are able to sign our families up and our children up with library cards. I think that's amazing. And then, of course, we have the Floating Hospital, Helen Keller Vision program, which is able to come on site to our facilities and provide our families and our children with vision tests and glasses to help them go out there into the world a little healthier. We also partner with New York City colleges, New York City Parks and Recreation, the New York City Police Foundation, and of course, local not-for-profit organizations, just to give you guys an idea. A little bit about the project. We want to share some more information specific to One Wadsworth Terrace and Bronx Family Network. One Wadsworth Terrace is set to be our next Families with Children shelter with an anticipated opening date of 2027. This facility will feature 7 floors, comprising 100 studio units with fully equipped kitchenettes. And that's going to be really important to ensure the accessibility for all of our residents in supporting their independence and their ability to prepare meals according to their own needs and their schedules. Additionally, One Wadsworth Terrace will be fully staffed with personnel and will undergo security contracts as all other sites in order to maintain enhanced security and safety. It is crucial for us to emphasize that because as part of our ongoing commitment to safety and security, all families with children sites must adhere to established protocols. So what I mean by that is that will include curfew hours, documented entry and exit, and so forth. Our facilities are all under 24-hour surveillance as well. This new site will significantly expand our capacity to provide essential resources to families and neighbors experiencing homelessness, and we are elated to move forward and bring One Wadsworth Terrace into our portfolio. In closing, we aim to convey that the Bronx Family Network is not merely a housing facility. It serves as a beacon of hope for our staff, for our team, for our families, and our children. We remain committed to our mission of securing permanent housing solutions and establishing a foundation for brighter futures in the heart of Washington Heights. So I thank you for your time and attention. And I will stop sharing my screen now. And if you guys have any questions, we are happy to take any.
That was an excellent and very thorough presentation. Thank you for that information. You said a projected date of 2027. I wanted to make sure. 2027?
But according to our landlord, if we were talking about spring 2026, but there hasn't started construction. So we're being cautiously in reference to, probably will take a little longer. But definitely at the end, probably 2026, 2027. But that will be the goal, to have the site, start building as soon as possible and provide this, this building, this site that would definitely help the homeless in your community as well as others.
Nisha, you have a question?
I do. Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Tanisha. I'm a community board member of this committee, and I'm also second vice chair of the community board. So yes, I have questions. So my first question is, we have a problem, and I'm hearing y'all, but I have a point. And we have a problem with shelters being built instead of permanent housing. So why is another shelter in our community better than an apartment building that's going to be stable housing instead of moving families around? Why are we opening more shelters instead of, building more apartment buildings for stable housing? I don't get it.
I can take that. I mean, I think
Sure.
we can. I'm Jamar Hooks, Deputy Commissioner for Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs at DSS. I mean, I think we could do both, right? We have a 1.4% vacancy rate, 0.39% deeply affordable vacancy rate for deeply affordable housing. People are generally, especially in Washington Heights, you all know this, the rent is exploding and people are having a hard time paying the rent. And so the shelter is a place for them to get stabilized, get the resources that they need, get the voucher that they need to move out of the shelter and back into the community. So I think that we don't need to look at it as either or. We can do both, have build shelter, and build affordable housing. Our agency, of course, is not responsible for building affordable housing. That's HPD. But we are responsible for transitioning people back into the community, and we do that by connecting them to vouchers such as City FEPS or FEPS or Section 8 if it's available, and move them out as quickly as possible. But as I said, I think that we need both affordable housing and shelter because people are having a tough time paying the rent.
But thank you for the your answer. And I hear y'all say that y'all work with CBOs in the area. So I would like to know what CBOs y'all have reached out to in Washington Heights that are actually community-based organizations, not nonprofits. Because as we know, community-based organizations are usually the ones that get the calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, are usually the ones making $1 out of 15 cents to connect our community members to resources. So I would love to hear about your reach out to community-based organizations in Washington Heights.
So I can tell you that we have not done the groundwork in the area because the project is just starting to be presented to you guys. But we're committed to not get on the phone, but walk the neighborhood and knock on doors and learn to know who are the pillars of the communities so they can have an open door policy or open phone line to myself, who I'm the CEO of the organization, to work together to make sure that whoever is in the facility are working with the community organizations that are in the area. So I can tell you this, it will not be today or this week because we just started this project off the ground, but I will assure you in the next 6 months, we'll be getting to know everyone in the community that can add value to our program and to the families that are going to be living in that facility. And I'm welcome if you can also share some people that you would like us to meet. We want to be very open and working together with your committee that you can point into the right directions.
We definitely will. Thank you. I'll hold the rest of my questions and let my fellow board members ask them. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me now? There we go. Thank you, Tanisha. Hi, everyone. Marielle here. Sorry, I was dealing with childcare issues. Thank you, Radia, for getting us started. Really appreciate that as always. Wanting to, give an opportunity for our online committee members, and then we'll kind of turn it to committee members in the room, and then of course open it to the wider public as well for any comments or questions they may have for the colleagues. So anyone else online has questions from the committee?
Yeah, I just got here. I apologize for being late. So I guess I don't really have any questions. So I was passed off to anyone else online. Thanks for the questions, Tanisha.
Good to have you here, John. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else online from the committee. Radia, do you have any questions?
I have one question. I know you said all of the apartments will be studios. What size will it be?
It's going to be three family members per room.
I'm sorry, 3 what?
3 members.
Family members per room is what I heard.
3 family members per room.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know the approximate size of the space? I know you might not know exactly, maybe a square foot.
I mean, the size of the rooms are going to be, standard that they could be comfortably, could be like a 2 single beds and a crib, depends on the family size. They'll have a bathroom and they'll have a kitchenette. Mind you, we want to make our families comfortable, but not that comfortable that they don't want to move. Our goal is for them to have a safe place, clean, safe place to be there temporarily. The word is temporarily. And our job as a provider is to transition them into permanent housing, which that will be the main goal. So we want to provide them as much resources and have them semi-comfortable, right, as much as we can, because it's, our goal is to have them reach their own home.
Do you have any other questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Apologies if I missed this during the presentation. Just a follow up on the bit around, how do we support these families then to find permanent housing? Could you just talk a little bit more to those services? Kind of what are the, things that are in place at the actual shelter location? And apologies if that was already discussed in the presentation.
Oh, no, not a problem. We love to. And by the way, I haven't been able to change my name, but my name is Sulay Mateo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We just shared the link. So basically, our job is once the family comes into our door, our case managers will meet with the family and assess them. Why are they in shelter? How they became homeless. So once we realize it's basically, it could be many different type of family can be homeless because domestic violence, mental health, or they just lost their job and couldn't get it together on time. So we have to first assess, do the assessment why they're in shelter. Once we figure that out and our case manager work toward, creating a independent living plan for the family, then they can qualify for a housing voucher. When they have a housing voucher, then our housing team will focus on reaching out to local brokers, applying for HPD units, and kind of reaching out to the community to see where you find a suitable home for this family. Our goal is to have members of our shelter the least amount of time in our shelter, right? Because at the end of the day, our goal is to transition them into permanent housing. But every family is different. A family can be in a shelter for 6 months, or the family could be for a year and a little longer, just depend on their personal situation. So everyone is different, but our goal at the end is to transition them into permanent housing. Working with local brokers, working with, getting units from HPD, Section 8, anything housing that is available in the community. And out there, we're knocking on doors. Our staff have a quota that they have to meet. We don't know what would be our target for this site, but we always have a high target because we want to do the job. Our job is to transition family, and that's what we focus on. Besides, make them comfortable in the time that they're with us by providing all the services. But the goal at the end of the day is to move them into permanent housing.
Thank you for that. I guess two follow-ups. One is, I know this is a family shelter. How are those families selected for the shelter? It's kind of one question that I have. And then another question is, have you already engaged kind of local officials, local electeds around the shelter? I did invite some of them all of them to the meeting this evening, but would like to hear about that engagement with our local electeds. Thank you.
So the way that the families are selected are to PAF. PAF is the intake center for the Department of Homeless Services. And they normally try to put individuals back to their community if there's space in their community. So let's say, for example, if someone becomes homeless from the Washington Heights, their first choice will be to put them at One Wadsworth Terrace, right? If there's vacancy at the moment. If not, then they will have to find them another place to go. But that's how the selection of the clients are done through the city. We have definitely met with local officials. We have reached out to De La Rosa. Her concern was that she only wanted a family with children site, which this is a family children site. I did explain to her that, we are committed to working with the community and we have an open line of communication. We also love to hire locally. So we also share with, if there's any job vacancies that might interest someone in the community that they can go through the interview process and see if they will be suitable for the position. We're open to have that kind of engagement with the community because they're going to be serving their neighbors. So why not have people from the community that know also the need?
If I could add one thing, when the when there's no capacity at One Wadsworth Terrace, the family is placed in the borough of the youngest child of the school, the borough of where the youngest child goes to school at. So if the youngest child goes to school in Manhattan, they're placed in Manhattan. We can't assure that they'll be placed directly in Washington Heights, but we make every effort to ensure that they're closely connected to the anchors of life, to their church, to their family, to their doctors, and all of the things that they're used to. So we try to make sure that even if they're not in the shelter in their community, they are pretty close to their community.
Thank you. That's really good to hear. I do see that Porfirio is raising. And sorry, just give me one moment. I'm going to promote Porfirio from the Manhattan Borough President's Office. Porfirio, is that a question or just you just wanted to be
Yes,
promoted?
I have a little bit of both. And first of all, Mariel, thank you so much for inviting me to the meeting. I can't stay on for the whole thing, but I did hear you mention, you had invited elected officials, and I wanted to be here and represent the Manhattan Borough President's Office. We do have a constituent services team that deals with these issues and does these referrals often. My question, it kind of will kind of take off on the previous question that was just asked. So in terms of priority, I do understand the answer in that the family will be placed in the borough or the area of the youngest child's school. However, how do we deal with families that have children that have been in the system for a while, who kind of get trapped, and kind of what's the matrix for priority?
So the goal is to move every family out as quickly as possible. But some families, and Zulay could speak to this, some families encounter difficulty finding an apartment. Like I said, there's a 1.4% vacancy rate for affordable housing and a 0.39% vacancy rate for deeply affordable housing. So ultimately, we try to move families out between 9 and 12 months. That's the average. So most families are coming in, they're getting stabilized, and then are moving out of shelter and into permanent housing. So, I mean, there may be a perception that there are a lot of families that are in shelter for year after year after year, but most families are coming in, getting stabilized, and moving out as quickly as possible. And with respect to migrants, many of them are not eligible for city FEPs or FEPs or Section 8 or those type of programs. So often before the migrant crisis occurred, they were living in shelter for longer periods than non-migrant folks. But our goal ultimately is to move everyone out as quickly as possible. And we do that in most cases, and most families are moving out between 9 and 12 months.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. I have another question formulating, and so I hope I can come back and ask another question, but I'll yield the floor to someone else.
Yep, not a problem, Porfirio. We'll certainly come back to you. I do see Tanisha's hand up. Tanisha, before I go to you, if it's okay, I'm just going to turn it over to Lori from Congressman Espaillat's office, and then I'll turn it over to you if that's all right. Lori, please.
Can I just sit here and speak?
Yeah, they should be able to hear you. Okay, the owl moves.
First of
Sometimes.
all, I just want to say, I'm very glad that I'm here to hear this presentation. I'm very impressed by what I'm hearing as both staffer for the congressman and as a neighbor of this upcoming project. And I just want to say that in light of the crisis that our immigrant community is experiencing, given the current administration, we have in our Harlem district office 2 excellent immigration specialists. And everyone, including ultimately the residents in shelter, are free to avail themselves, and they can learn more about it by coming to our district office on 720 West 181st Street.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that we have also internally have created kind of an asylum support team because we saw the need for our families. And we have been able to obtain many working documents for our families in shelter at the migrant crisis. We were there for current administration when they needed help opening new shelters to house our south of the border neighbors that came up. So we internally created our own asylum group support to be able to go to those meetings that the elected officials were having and those different organizations that were having a lot of information and bring that into shelter. So I'm so happy to hear that you have an organization in the community that we're able to partner and bring that information also inside our shelter to continue to know, since the information changes every day. It's really important to kind of stay ahead and afloat of everything that's happening daily. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see Tanisha's hand up, and then I see Jay. I also see Peter and Porfirio from our local elected. So if it's okay, I'll go first to Tanisha, and then Jay, and then Peter and Porfirio.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you. So let me get this straight. The housing, I'm sorry, what did y'all know? Bronx Family Network is a nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so I have a question. So how are you doing on getting landlords to take these Section 8 vouchers, these city vouchers, these federal vouchers, with all the uncertainties right now? Because in my community, I have a lot of people who come to me and, complain about even when they get these vouchers, the landlords are not taking them. So how do you navigate that? Because I hear a lot of people tell us that these vouchers aren't taken. So excuse me for being a little doubtful, because literally I've had 2-3 dozen people, and you see Marielle shaking her head and John shaking his head. This is a real issue in our community where these vouchers are not being accepted. So
And
I'd
that
love
is
to hear
true.
about
There's some landlords that are pricing their apartment just a little above what the Bartram land is. But there's others that are not. So our job basically is to work with those landlords that want to work with us. We cannot force a landlord to work with us if they don't want to, right? So what we do is that we work with brokers and landlords that have been a partner with Bronx Family Network for a long time. At the same time, we try to prep our clients, right? Because the reason why they don't want clients that have vouchers, because they have this premeditated notion that they're not going to take care of their apartments, that they are going to be, rowdy, that they're not going to be able to upkeep their apartment and break your apartment in 2 days. So we have to say, hey, if you have that experience, we apologize for that. But Miss Smith has been with us for 6 months. She keeps her room clean. Her kids go to school. They're very respectful, and present her well. It's our job to sell our client. It's like we're selling art or we're selling a car. We just have to make sure that we're selling our client to the best light and making sure that our client understands that, if they don't have a good neighbor policy with their new neighbors when they move out, then the next person that comes behind them, we're not going to get an apartment because they had one bad experience with us. So that's what we try to do. We have some brokers that they work with all our facilities, and daily we get some units. But yes, it is true. There's a lot of vouchers out there. There's more vouchers than maybe apartments at the moment in time. And there's some landlords that are putting, maybe $10 higher than what the vouchers amount. But for us, our team is dedicated to reach the community. Sometimes if we have a good report with a broker, we'll get an apartment. We just have to make sure that we're keeping that good report. And that's our job. Our job is to create rapport, build relationship outside our network to ensure that we're placing our clients where they need to go.
And then if I could add, also there's the scenario where sometimes landlords are directly saying to clients, we do not accept vouchers. That is illegal. Source of income discrimination is illegal. If you're hearing that, you should report that to the Commission on Human Rights, and they will investigate and hold those landlords accountable. And in addition, I mean, I do understand we have a tight housing market, but as a collective, DHS was able to move out 50,000 clients last year using mostly CityFEPS vouchers. Those vouchers are city funded. So I know that there's a concern that the federal cuts are coming. Those cuts would be to Section 8, not necessarily to CityFEPS and to FEPS, which is what we primarily use to move folks out. So yes, there are potential cuts coming. Yes, it may potentially affect Section 8, but the city-funded vouchers are not under threat at all.
Chair, just real quick. I hear what you're saying, but if we lose the money from the federal government, that means it's going to put a strain on our city and state budget, period. That is absolutely true. And we just want to do our due diligence to make sure that, this is not going to be, another place where, people are languishing and they should, be in apartments. We know that it costs less to stabilize someone in housing than it does to have them in a shelter. So, respectfully, I'm going to be very thorough because this is my community that we're talking about. And also, when you say that, they can make a complaint, we also know we have thousands of people that make complaints about their landlord, about things, about mold, about their house falling down. And the landlord is not penalized. So, we could say that, but that's not how it's going down in our community. And I'm one of these people we talking about. I had no gas the whole pandemic. So, it's an issue that we just want to be, very, very mindful and thorough, while questioning you about this establishment that's coming into our community. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tanisha. And I think you raised a good point around, the importance of even Bronx Family Network doing it. So thank you for your work in terms of engaging with landlords and brokers. But we also want to make sure that as these families are transitioning, that, we're setting them up for success. That they have the best opportunity to, have that permanent housing and kind of, be able to move on to a new phase in their lives. So that's really important. I have a couple questions, but I'll wait for mine because I did say Jay is next. Then after Jay, Peter, and then Porfirio. Jay, over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
I just had a quick question. Is this shelter going to accept the migrant families?
This shelter, well, Jamal, you want to answer that?
Yes, the shelter will accept all families that are facing hardships and all families that are in need of shelter.
And so a follow-up to that, do you guys still have that policy in place specifically for migrant families where they have to leave after 60 days or they get like another 60-day extension? And I'm not sure if they have to leave.
That was never a DHS policy. Our families were never subjected to a 60-day policy.
So that doesn't apply to any of your shelters?
None of DHS shelters, no.
What we do encourage our family is when they come into shelter is to create a plan because we want them to be there temporarily. So as soon as they come through the door, as a provider and our staff, we create a plan for them and how can we get them situated, find out why they were in shelter, how we can, if they need to look for work, how can we refer them to work, how can they get any assisting in the community to be like, program that they need in order for them to eventually move into transition to permanent housing. This could be 9 months, it could be less, it could be more, depending on the family itself. But our families and the goal of them DHS is to always make sure the well-being of the family, that the kids are in school, that the parents have the resources that they need to make sure they're setting up themselves in order to move to permanent housing. So that's always the focus of a family with children location.
Okay, I just wanted to know that policy was a thing. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jay. Peter, over to you. You should be able to speak.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? I apologize. I'm outside, so there may be some background noise. I just wanted to add in that while the budget has not been officially signed and all the T's crossed and I's dotted and all that stuff, the governor was confident enough to come out and say that there will be about $50 million in the budget for Housing Access Voucher Program, which is a new state-funded voucher program speaking to the needs of exactly this type of population. And the interesting thing about this year's, discussion, negotiations about this was the inclusion of like positive feedback from some landlord organizations, from landlords saying that this is a program that they support and want to see. So I just wanted to add in that there will be more money coming from the state to target this exact need in the community, and that there is some level of buy-in from landlords, which is different than in past years. It doesn't guarantee anything, obviously, and our office also is, stands ready to help folks with complaints about income source discrimination. We're always available. I'll drop my information in the chat. Everyone knows our office is 210 Sherman Avenue. Our constituent services also does a lot of work in this area. So we're hopeful, though, that with this additional money and with some landlord buy-in, we'll maybe see a move in the right direction. Yes, Tanisha, that the House, the
50
Assembly and
million
the
is a
legislature.
drop in the bucket. So, Peter, respectfully, we're not going to do that.
Do what? It's it's this year's budget. Well, the negotiations will continue next year.
Thank you, Peter. I think kind of Tanisha's point was this costs a lot of money, and to start, and I think that's important. It's a start in the right direction, but I think we need more. So do want to acknowledge that, obviously, it's budget season. So we know that the assembly member is busy and the entire team. We also obviously have our city officials. I did see that the mayor released the budget as well for the city. So this is the time for all of these issues that we're all talking about for us to be engaging our elected representatives and really kind of making the point about these really important issues. Porfirio, over to you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to thank Tanisha, sorry, for raising some of her points, and Marielle for your counterpoint comments. I also want to take an extra moment to actually thank DHS for doing this and Bronx Housing Networks for, presenting. But I also want to say that, they are the ones who are actually involved in helping and solving the situation. So I think we need to take a moment and acknowledge that and thank them for being here. But I also want to take it a step further and ask both DHS and Bronx Housing Networks, so how can we as elected help? And how can, for instance, we actually have a constituent services team? How can that, what is that process like in order for us to be able to help and assist you?
I think HAVP that was it Peter mentioned, that certainly helps. That type of support is very, very helpful because the more opportunities folks have to move out, the better. There is a chance that like Tanisha said, and like others have said, that people are not accepting vouchers and that there's an oversaturation of vouchers in the market. So there is a chance that could potentially happen. But we're grateful for the vouchers, the HAVP program. We're grateful for your support in general with what the other things that Peter said, that they're helping constituents that are encountering source of income discrimination. So those are the type of things that we need from our state partners, and from the federal government. We just need to hold the line on these sort of cuts that are anticipated to be coming, right? Because they're going to impact all of our budgets and how we serve New Yorkers.
Sure, Jamar, but let me ask the question in a different way. Maybe it's a nuanced question. Is there a pipeline for us to be able to assist you, or perhaps like make referrals? And if the referrals are made, it's great to hear that you are working with landlords and brokers who are willing to accept these. But in terms of referrals and hitting the wall where we may encounter either brokers or landlords who say no, how do we do that? Like, so that's what I'm referring to. So is there a pipeline where we can actually refer, and if there's an issue and pushback, that way we can also help?
I'll defer to Zule for that one.
In reference to refer, we're always looking to work, whoever wants to work with us. So if you say referring brokers to us, we always love that because we have people to move out. So in that part, our offices are always open, or our staff is always available in reference to having people from the community work with us. We have what we encounter when we are in the field everybody wants, things differently, right? So our job, like I mentioned before, is to make sure that we're working with those people that want to work with us. In this location, what we're looking is to partner with whoever wants to partner with us and the city to move the people into permanent housing. There will be other partners that will be just to do social events. We will do toy drive, we will do, book drive, depends, clothing drive, depends what is the need of the neighbors that will have house in that building. But in reference to housing, if you say, hey, I have this broker that would love to service and work with you guys, we would thrill, because what we're gonna have is vouchers. So if they're ready to work with family that have voucher, we'll have clients for them ASAP. So we will open to work with those that we like to service the community that we're going to be serving.
Yeah, we don't often get brokers, but we often definitely do get constituents who do need help. So
in reference to the referral for the contingent, like Jamar said at the beginning, they have to go through PATH, and PATH will house them normally in the neighborhood that they came from if there's open vacancy in that building. So for example, if I were to live in Washington Heights and I become homeless, and this building is already up and running, and the building has available units or available room, they'll place me in that community. But if there's no available units in that particular building, they'll place, like he mentioned, where the youngest child goes to school, or if I don't have a child and I just have a baby, there's a newborn, they'll place me where there's an open bed for me to be in, right? I think you mentioned, earlier about someone, coming back to the community if they were already in another location. Our job is always to have the family comfortable enough that they can continue, making steps to move to permanent housing, but not too comfortable that they don't want to move out. So we want to make sure that we have, that kind of synergy to make sure that, hey, you're here temporarily, but we're going to love to work with you to get you to your own place so you can put your own Christmas tree, so you can have your own friends over and do those kind of things. That is our goal always.
Then the other thing is, we of course don't want anyone to get evicted. So HRA or DSS has the Office of Civil Justice, which oversees tenant legal services, which are helping New Yorkers stay in their homes every day. We also have Homebase. There's one on 181st Street, not too far from this shelter, that is helping people stay in their homes. So there are resources besides shelter for people that are on the brink of eviction. They can go to, seek services at the Office of Civil Justice for tenant legal services, or they can go to Homebase to get a one-shot deal, to get connected to a voucher if they're eligible for that in the community, and to get the services that they need to stay in their home. So yes, there's a pipeline available for people who are on the brink of being evicted. To prevent them from ever having to go to shelter, we have these services set up that are appropriate for those that are in need.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamar. So over to John, and then John, before you speak, we'll do one final round of questions for committee members and electeds, and then I think there's one person from the public who's online that would like to speak as well. So John, over to you.
All right, night. So, what's your process for vetting these brokers? And here's my stake on it. So, like, I'm a housing attorney, and so sometimes a lot of my clients end up coming to me because they came from the shelter, they were given a broker because their incentive is to just make money and run, puts them in these very deplorable conditions. The landlord doesn't care because they keep just getting the voucher money, right? And then because of the conditions, maybe they have children, maybe they have disabilities, maybe they have other pre-existing conditions, right? They're then constructively forced out or evicted from those apartments and end up right back on the streets. So my question is, what is your process for vetting these brokers or vetting these landlords to make sure that clients aren't end up in like extremely deplorable conditions and recontributing back to the cycle of like hopelessness and shelter?
The housing market have changed a lot, and DHS and providers have done a great job in reference to what we do with this broker. So anytime someone is going to get an apartment, we have to do an inspection. The client have to go in and see the apartment themselves. And I personally would not move a client in to a unit that I myself would not live in. And that is what is across the board. If I'm not able to be there with my family in that unit, why would one of my clients be there? So that's how Bronx Family Network thinks. But every time we go to a unit, we have to inspect that the appliances are new or are in great conditions, that the water is hot enough, that the light outlets are working. All those things are checked before we go. And the client have the choice to decline or accept the unit. You know, we have a lot of the clients are getting, you know, this very beautiful constructed building that they have, you know, bike garage and gym and everything. So it's not like we're putting them in a bad landlord somewhere deep in the Bronx. No, we're not doing that. We provide transportation. We take the clients in a viewing. If they decline, we take them to another viewing. If they decline, we take them to another viewing. If they decline, we want to conference them and say, hey, what's going on? We have taken you to 3 beautiful places where you're not accepting. So we're not seeing bad apartments. We're not seeing basement apartment, anything like that. DHS would have to do the inspection themselves. Anything above the first floor, us, the provider, we go on site and we inspect the apartment. We take pictures, we take videos. Those pictures and videos have to be part of the housing package. So then someone else can review it and accept the package that we're submitting. And the process is like that. So there is a system in place to make sure that they're getting good apartments. Now, after moving with a family in, if the family unfortunately does not upkeep the apartment, then they have to work with the landlord to make sure that repairs are being met. But when we move them into an apartment, they move it into an apartment just as beautiful as mine, or just sometimes even much better than ours, because of the market, what is out there. So there have been systems in place to try to avoid those things that have happened in the past. So I tell you that for now, things are much, much better.
I do want to add to one of Ms. Mateo's point is that we do understand that the housing process can be intimidating for some clients, especially for those that are new to the experience and so on. And so we do want to assure you guys that our housing team is responsible for, in one way or another, hand-holding our clients through this process and having and assuring them that they have an advocate on their side when they are viewing these apartments and these spaces, right? It's important for them to make sure that that clients go in there and they're looking for certain things, but from a network's perspective, that our team is also making sure that they're crossing the T's and dotting the I's and assuring that the spaces are up to code and so on and so forth. So it is an added point to what Ms. Mateo shared, that our team is responsible for, again, not only providing the transportation to and from these viewings, but also hand-holding these clients, the hands of these clients or our clients, I apologize, to assure that they also feel comfortable and understand that they have an advocate with them when going into these spaces.
And I could add one last thing. Yes, we handheld. Yes, we do inspections, but after the client moves in, the lease is between the client and the landlord. And so like any other client, any other tenant, landlord, the client has been returned to independence. They went into shelter, they got stabilized, and they moved out and returned to independence. So they are responsible for handling things that come up if there's, pipe issues or issues with flights or any of the sort of maintenance issues that are required to upkeep an apartment. The client has to work with the landlord to ensure that the apartment continues to be up to code, because we do make sure that they are up to code in the very beginning via our robust inspection process.
Thank you. Final check on committee members and electeds for final questions. I'm gonna take a look. I don't think I see any. No, okay. I have a question. Firstly, and then I do kind of just want to echo what Porfirio said before Porfirio logged off. Just a big thank you. I think, we recognize this as hard work, and it's, I think from the different types of questions that were raised this evening, it's, holistic work as well. You know, we can't just think kind of pinpoint thing. We have to think about what are the root causes that cause people to become homeless, and then what are the things that we can do to prevent that cycle from, you know, happening again. And so our questions are more so from, this is our community. We certainly, you know, appreciate you coming here to kind of tell us about this. And it's helpful to hear kind of the process in terms of how you engage with clients. So thank you. I just wanted to go back a little bit on, because this is a family shelter, any kind of preliminary engagement with nearby schools. You know, obviously these would be students in temporary housing. And so would love to hear a little bit more about that engagement, you know, and your engagement with the DOE, and how does that work? Thank you.
Well, normally we haven't done any community engagement yet. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I want to be clear on that. That's something that is on our to-do list. And we just wanted to present the project to you guys, and then, you know, work with you guys, and also receive some referrals from you guys to kind of move around your community with your permission. In reference to DOE, every shelter has a DOE liaison assigned to them. So we would, because of the size of this building, we probably will have there someone permanently that will work with us to make sure that the kids they find placement in the school area or whatever it is, placement for the kids. So we always have the support of DOE.
We work very closely with our DOE liaisons, or what they, on paper, they are listed down as SCH coordinators. And we do have one that is housed at all of our facilities. And it allows us to have a really close relationship with them in terms of understanding the needs and the abilities of our children, how they're doing with school, how our attendance rates, are they in need of uniforms? How can we help support them? Can we find donations? Are there other children in other sites that we can transfer clothing from, et cetera, et cetera? That the DOE, the SCH coordinators are staff members that my team works extremely closely with. Obviously, we encourage the success of their education, and finding ways to encourage that on our end is sort of my job. I'm a mother of 2 children who are also in school. And so I understand that sometimes schooling can be, especially as children that are going through shelter, sometimes it can be a little difficult for them to navigate school. And so we find ways to remove that stress both from the parents and the children by finding things that are going to keep them engaged while they are on site. In terms of encouraging attendance rates, we find creative ways to do that. So if we have to host pizza parties or partner with local community YMCAs or et cetera, to kind of find ways to have our kids be more engaged and celebrate the hardship that is to even get up and get to school on time and to participate and all of those things. We do all of that. And so just to answer your question and to piggyback off of Ms. Mateo, working closely with our STH coordinators is an absolute must, especially for the recreational team.
Thank you.
And we also work closely with the case managers to make sure that they're not missing any of those opportunities or of that information, to make sure that our kids are staying straight in school.
No, that's super helpful. Oh, thank you. Because we do know that chronic absenteeism is a problem. And so it's really good to hear that coordinated approach. I also just want to acknowledge the point that was made earlier around the commitment to hire locally. So thank you, and we'll certainly hold you to that. I think it's really important, where possible, to support the communities that you're engaging with and engaging in. And I guess my final point then is, we can certainly, I think, as a committee, kind of come up with a list. We have suggestions of community providers that we think would be important for you to meet with and engage with, as well as you kind of continue this community engagement. And I'm sure, as well as the local elected offices and meeting with their constituent affairs and community affairs teams, can provide you with some of those suggestions as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
For sure. There's just one hand in the, where is it? In the participants list from a member of the public. I just want to see. Okay. Hi, Tiffany. Thanks for joining. Do you have your hand is raised. I just want to check if you have a question or a point on this agenda item.
No, it was just to let you guys know that I was in the room and that was disabled. So thanks.
Yeah, Not a problem. Thank you. Good to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So with that, unless there are any final questions, just again, a thank you to Marcia and the team, to the Bronx Family Network. We certainly look forward to remaining engaged with you all throughout this process. And I know it's for 2026. Did I miss the month or?
It's spring, but I think it might be summer. We'll see how construction goes, but I don't. We don't have an exact day. But we're
Okay.
coming to your community, and we're looking forward to.
No, please do. And I mean, if there's an opportunity for the community board to do a walkthrough, I know in the past the community board has done walkthroughs. Obviously, recognizing like privacy issues and stuff like that before clients and so on. We've done walkthroughs of new shelters in the community as well, and I think that's been really nice to have and to know kind of how can we be helpful and supportive to our new neighbors as they're going through this transition phase. So thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for that. Again, thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm sorry, Mariella. I just wanted to add, again, Marcia Horn with Department of Social Services. I just want to add also, like once the site is set up, we will have a cab for the location. So we'll also be reaching, and usually once the site is active and live, we'll reach out to for participants to be on the cab from your community board and of course other electeds, individuals in the community. So we just want to be, for you to be on guard for that once the site is open. And then it's just so we can all have the communication and the community is involved, they're engaged, and as well as they're hearing the concerns, and it's more so to uplift the site, right? That's what we're here to do. If there are resources that that may be helpful for the site, things of that nature, and to connect the site as well, the provider in the community. So just wanted to plug that as well for you to be on your radar. And yeah, of course, once the site is able to do a tour, we will be reaching out.
Great. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is just a presentation and I guess a bit of a discussion on the proposed closure. Thank you
so much, Mariella. We're all gonna drop off, and thank you again, Community Board 12, for having us. Please feel free to reach out to me. Mariella, you have my information, so please feel free to circulate and for you to reach out. Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us. And of course, the provider, thank you guys so much for the time and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
evening,
everyone.
Take care. All right, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion and a presentation of a resolution on the proposed closure of the Fort Washington Collegiate Church. I do know that we have some colleagues here from the community, and we also probably have people online as well. So I'm just going to share my screen so that way kind of people online can also follow along, and then I'll turn it over to you, Emily, if that's okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you. You may actually want to sit closer to here because it seems as if you're sitting out there, the owl doesn't pick up people's voices as well as it should. So yeah. Let me see. And while we're getting set up, if there are any members of the public who would like to speak on this item, if you could just please raise your hand or put something in the Q&A, so that way we have that set up. That's okay. Sorry? Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Sorry, I'm like focused on the online bit. I'm like, yes, there are people here too, which is awesome. Thank you. Sure, we can certainly do that for you. 1 second. Okay. Maybe if you'd like, Emily, probably get started. It's going to take me a minute to get set up, if that's okay. So over to you, and then I'll share my screen.
And you're going to put up the resolution?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Santiago. I am a resident of the Washington Heights community. I live on 181st, and I also attend Fort Washington Collegiate Church. So I'm here to bring attention to the closure of Fort Washington Collegiate Church that will be happening on June 30th of this year. I spoke about this at the general board meeting in this past month. And we also had other community members who spoke on the issue. Right now, what we're really asking for is for the Collegiate Consistory Board to extend or to honestly rescind the vote for closure and to give the Collegiate Board and its campus partners more time, and also for transparency in terms of why this decision was made, and we're asking for the community board support. So I'm here to also present a resolution that, should I go ahead and read it? Or
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just really slow right
no,
now.
no, no, wait, I can start reading it. Yeah. So this resolution is in support of Fort Washington Collegiate Church. And so we are urging the consistory board of the minister, elders, and deacons of the Reformed Protestant Dutch Church of the City of New York, also known as Collegiate Church, to reconsider the planned closure of Fort Washington Collegiate Church, also known as FWCC, on June 30th, 2025. We are also calling for the Collegiate Church's consistory to work with the Fort Washington Collegiate Church Board and the campus's partner organizations to develop a viable and sustainable solution to keep this community and green space open to the Washington Heights neighborhood. Whereas Fort Washington Collegiate Church has been a Washington Heights institution for more than 100 years, since its inception in 1907 in the district centering 181st Street and Broadway. Throughout its history, it has been more than a house of worship. It has become a collective gathering point and a home to numerous programs serving our Washington Heights and Uptown community. And whereas Fort Washington Collegiate Church is a center for local music and the arts through the Fort Washington Community Choir, Washington Heights Chamber Orchestra, Up Theater, and Uptown Enclave, it embodies interfaith connection through the Fort Tryon Jewish Center, offers a sanctuary of nature and beauty through the Fort Washington Community Garden. It is a center for healing and recovery through Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, and Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and nourishes families through the Fort Fridge. And whereas since March 2021, the Fort Fridge has distributed food to individual and families in the Washington Heights community. The poverty rate in Washington Heights and Inwood is 20.1%. Approximately 16.6% of residents experience food insecurity, and the neighborhood supermarket to bodega ratio is 1:13. Weekly food deliveries are often accompanied by long lines, and it has served as a vital resource for our neighbors throughout COVID and beyond. And whereas Fort Washington Collegiate Church has provided support and recovery groups for the Washington Heights community in a time when substance use and overdoses have increased in our community. Washington Heights has seen a 182% increase in drug overdose deaths from 2014 to 2020. And whereas the Collegiate Church consistory real estate mismanagement led to a 1/3 reduction in endowment in 2021. Since 2023, the Collegiate Church consistory has denied Fort Washington Collegiate Church resources to pursue alternatives in line with Washington Heights community values. And whereas the Collegiate Church consistory has not provided a plan for what it intends to do with the space past June 30th, 2025, or an explanation behind the closure of Fort Washington Collegiate Church and the eviction of all the community programs. We are asking for the support of Community Board 12 to call upon the Collegiate Church consistory to rescind its plan to close Fort Washington Collegiate Church on June 30th, 2025, and to explore alternative community-oriented solutions. Manhattan Community Board 12, we're asking you to call on the consistory of the Collegiate Church, private developers, and community organizations to continue to operate and support its operations at Fort Washington Collegiate Church through December 31st, 2025, provide meaningful financial resources and support to assist Fort Washington Collegiate Church in developing and executing a long-term sustainability plan, actively and meaningfully engage with community stakeholders, including current and prospective Fort Washington Collegiate Church campus partners and renters, Community Board 12, elected officials, and the surrounding community to leverage existing resource networks, resources, and support to ensure the ongoing financial security, operations, and success of Fort Washington Collegiate Church in its role as a cornerstone of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. And just, for the committee, Emily, you and I'm assuming your, fellow members and colleagues kind of pulled this together. So thank you so much for sharing. Just, I guess, a reflection from my end, and then I'll open it up to the committee. I'm also from Washington Heights, kind of born and raised, and can certainly speak to many of the things that you kind of pointed out in the resolution in terms of all the community resources and things of that nature. I'm certainly, like my children, they attend services and, receive services from community programs that use the FWCC space. And so we're impacted as well directly. So thank you for, your advocacy, and everyone's advocacy on it. For sure. Nisha, please, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that it's deplorable that this safe space, that this landmark in our community, this community space, Chair, where people could only not go and get, food for their soul, but a sense of community and resources. What are we doing here? That we even have to write a resolution and fight for one of the few places that we have like this in our community. If anything, we should be writing resolutions for more places such as this in our community in support of more places like this. I yield.
Thank you, Tanisha. 100%. I think we all know the lack of community space that exists. And what happens when there's no community space. It's, our children are impacted, our community members are impacted. We've seen so many amazing organizations that want to do good and provide services and support the community, but because they can't find space, or it's like, ridiculous.
It's a matter of public safety, Chair.
It is. It is.
When we run around and we talk about public safety, and everybody talking about public safety, like police will not replace this landmark, this church, this safe place, this place where people who are recovering can come and gather to stay in recovery. Losing this place will just cause more problems in our community and be negative on the public safety. So I'm just really confused, Chair.
No, I hear you. I guess, I think there's a couple of things. I'll come over to you, Lori, and thank you for joining us this evening. In terms of the resolution itself, I think there are bits that we can weave in to make it even stronger. So, for example, Tanisha's point around the impact that it will have with the closure. So, for example, the public safety bit, which is huge. Mental health. We know I know that there are mental health providers that use that space. So that's also really, really important. Lori, please.
That the consistory, is that what it's called? This is the convening body.
We can't hear. We want to hear. We can't hear.
Lori, you may want to hold on one second. Lori's going to try and come closer to the owl. This is what they call it. Yeah, this is the thing here.
Okay, I just want a point of clarification. First of all, I was at a meeting that was convened by the church. Okay. This is going back, I don't know, about 2 months, maybe a little more. And so I believe that all of the elected officials were requested to either come or send a representative. And the person who I believe is head of the was not based in New York. I think he's based in Texas.
Oh, yes.
Spoke at length about the fact that there was just no more money to underwrite this church, and where the other member churches in Manhattan had membership that could carry the load, they could no longer carry it for this community. But he said that they needed to find $800,000 I found that staggering, and there was no explanation at the time as to what's the breakdown. There's no taxes, there's no mortgage, there's rent being paid by another full, like full bore active congregation, right? It's a magnificent partnership. And I'm like, $800,000. So that's one question. If someone can speak to where that figure comes from. And the other question is, you said that the consistory presented roadblocks to things that the church could maybe have done, could have innovated to raise some money. And I'd like you to speak to that, please.
So I am a member of the church, so I don't have like the full details. And when I don't know if you want to chime in at a certain point, he's also a member of the church. But go ahead.
Sorry, just if you wouldn't mind coming up here, because it sounds like it for our
Come on, church members, you gotta come up here. We can't hear you. Hello.
Hi, my name's Juan Jose Martinez Hill. I am Emily's husband, and I live on 181st Street, right next to the congressman's, right? Just literally right next to it. So again, I'm speaking just in my capacity as an attendee, member of the congregation, and a concerned neighbor and supporter of the church. So I can't speak specifically to the internal decision-making process, but hopefully some of my comments will illuminate that. To our knowledge, that there's some pushback on that $800,000 number. The Fort Washington leadership believes that actual amount could be brought down significantly. Again, taking into account the tax exempt status, the fact that as a charitable exempt organization, right, there's a potential of leveraging volunteer services as well. We haven't really gotten any clarity from the consistory as to how they arrived at those numbers, nor does that number match any of the prior financial statements, which the consistory hasn't provided to the public since, I believe, about 2001 or 2002, aligning with the same amount of time with the real estate deal that negatively impacted the endowment. So one of the things that we're really asking for and advocating for is additional transparency as to how this actual decision-making process unfolded. How did they arrive at that $800,000 number? And engaging with community partners for creative and constructive solutions as to, well, is there a way of turning back to the budget to make sure that the overheads aren't quite as high? And if not, how can we leverage existing networks so that we can find folks to fill the space? It's a gorgeous space. They just remodeled the entire building, I believe, in 2016. And while Fort Washington does an incredible job of supporting the community through active programs and services, I believe the space is still being underutilized. I think that there are ways to expand the number of services being offered and opportunities for funded services and programs through the grants. So again, these changes won't happen unless the consistory, number one, allows more time to explore these creative solutions. Number two, comes to the table and is transparent in these negotiations. And number three, I think you spoke very eloquently to the meeting that happened 2 months ago, and how all 4 congregations were given equal amounts of time and equal amounts of support. Well, what is equitable in the context of Washington Heights, like our Washington Heights congregation's ability to fundraise compared to the congregations in Chelsea or the East Village or the Upper West Side, we don't have the same deep pockets, right, as these other congregations. And to close the congregation that's consisted of in the low-income community of color to have these other congregations who are, oh, well, we were able to do this on our own. I'm sorry, and I'm speaking a little bit bluntly here. But it doesn't seem in line with the teachings of the church, and it feels like an unequitable approach.
It feels very corporate.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to add to your question in terms of like those roadblocks. So one of the things, my understanding, and again, I'm speaking as like a member of the community and an attendee, is that the Fort Washington board did bring on a developer to kind of like look into rental plans and worked with a woman of color from the community to help them figure out what are some like viable solutions that then were shut down by the consistory. But I don't, without any real explanation. And again, we're asking for transparency, like were these plans? Yeah, and then there was also the fact that there was this deadline given of April 1st, 2025, of you now need to figure this out by that deadline. Why was it that date? You know, what was that deadline? What was the logic behind that deadline? So we really are asking for answers. We're asking for answers and transparency right now.
And to my knowledge, again, reflecting on that date, in terms of current support and financial resources or runway, my understanding is that the congregation itself, the space itself, has enough funding to at least extend past that June 30th deadline. So the fact that that the space will be shuttered by June 30th also feels a bit premature.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, again, they really haven't explained what, like, any ideas for the intended future use of a space. I've heard of, again, just looking back at 2000 and the deals with the real estate developer downtown and how that turned out. I need to see something similar happen in our neighborhood. And I've just heard of so many other deals gone wrong with churches trying to develop luxury apartments or whatever with a real estate developer who then goes bankrupt. And frankly, we can't afford another empty vacant lot after the closing of the theater on 181 and Broadway, which has been empty for what, 5 years?
Long enough.
Two empty lots?
I doubt very much, by the way, that is what the consistory is thinking. I don't think they're thinking that they're going to let this asset just slip out of their hands. I don't mean to be cynical, but part of me is like, this is the church. For someone who frankly is of a very different faith, it feels very confusing. But I applaud what you're trying to do. I will bring all this information back to the congressman. To the best of my knowledge, Rabbi Guy Austrian, who's the rabbi of Fort Tryon Jewish Center, I believe I don't know for sure because the congressman's schedule changes next second, but I believe that they did speak and that fundamentally the rabbi was speaking to this issue. I would hope, of course, that young people like yourselves have spoken with him and other leadership from Fort Tryon. Because, good, I'm very glad to hear.
Well, we have, I wouldn't say we have personally, but we have representatives.
Yeah, good, because they are going, they don't, they need a home also, and they don't, and this has been, as I said, a magnificent partnership. I do think it's not going to be possible to turn this around without a for-profit partner or something.
We understand that, essential to this process and this discussion and collaboration is that securing the future financial stability of the congregation. And again, I think that it's possible to achieve an outcome that protects the current services while meeting the financial realities of the situation, but we can only do that with time and open discussion.
Great, thank you. Can I open it up to members of the committee if they have any? I know Tanisha, you spoke. If there are any other members of the committee who may want to comment on this agenda item.
Chair, this is Indiana.
Yep, go ahead.
I apologize if you addressed this already. I just missed it, but do you know if this space can be converted to residential? I heard some mention of that in the discussion, but just more clearly, like, do you know if that is kind of what they're hoping to do with the space, or we don't know what they have planned yet?
I can't speak to that certainly, but I think, Juan, do you want to? Juan's like looking at me and I'm like.
The Fort Washington Collegiate's most recent proposal in the LOI that they submitted to the consistory included a plan to develop affordable housing on that property. That was the plan that the consistory summarily rejected without any explanation at the April 1st meeting. So, again, the Fort Washington Collegiate Church has been very open in terms of what kinds of partners they can bring in, and whether it's affordable housing, potential for schools. My understanding is that the Fort Washington Collegiate Church has been open and exploring these options, but has only been met with pushback from the larger consistory.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks, Indiana. That was going to be part of my question. Just thinking about the faith-based Affordable Housing Act that's from the state level, where a lot of that has been, which we know, like for instance, the Rocky Mount Baptist Church, which is kind of part of that. So using federal state money, to revitalize places of worship and combining them with affordable housing opportunities. And but it's unfortunate to hear that wasn't kind of an option for them to consider. Jay? You're still muted.
Sorry. I'm sorry if I missed this. I'm just trying to understand, although I know there's pushback against the 800K, like where is the revenue coming from in general? And do you guys understand what the actual costs are, or they're just not, no one's just being willing to share that type of information?
So my in terms of the 800K, that comes from like the consistory, so leadership. I believe that Fort Washington Collegiate Church has probably done their own numbers and can say that the church can run less than that. And so kind of trying to understand, well, where is this, like, why is there this discrepancy? And again, asking for transparency, where are they getting this number from? And in terms of the current revenue, there are like renters in the space. So, was mentioned earlier, for Tryon Jewish Center is housed at Fort Washington Collegiate Church. There used to be the Y was there, but then that they left in I believe fall of 2024. And so then that also left a gap. Who else is in terms of renter?
Those are the two main renters,
Yeah.
Although several of the other programs also raise funds to help offset the costs of using the space. And we believed that, again, space for community organizations is so limited in this area. There are most certainly opportunities to find additional partners to offset those expenses.
Please.
I guess this is.
Sorry, excuse me for a second. I ask you if you want to join us at the table, please.
Yeah, so this is more just a question, I think. But I had a spiel because I am a volunteer at the Food Fridge. And so I can speak to some of the, I really can introduce supply some numbers, context there, just say that like 5 days a week, Food Fridge is providing, food for people who are insecure. We started this 3 years ago during the pandemic and then up, and created a space where people could come anonymously and take as needed and give as needed. That's literally what's on the board. It's like take what you can, leave what you can. Take what you need, leave what you can. Sorry. So during the critical moment, they connected with local businesses and volunteers to provide sustenance throughout the community. This includes like Bo's Bagels right now. Bo's Bagels provides today I just did 40 bags of bagels. Each one of those bags is 5 bagels, and put them into the fridge just today. So that's 3 days a week. That's around 35 bags of bagels. And that's always empty. At the end of the day, so you're thinking about that. That's like dozens of families every single day are going there grabbing food that they need. And then there's also one of the nonprofits that we have is 9 Million Reasons, and also Westside Campaign Against Hunger. There's also a local grocery store that contributes to the Food Fridge there.
Sorry, if just before I forget my point of lose my point of thought, it would be really helpful to get a full list of all of the organizations that partner. So either the fridge itself, the ones that are renting the space, so on. It would be good to capture it in one place. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, and so they are a centralized point of contact for anybody who wants to give to that community to give to people who live there. Everyone knows what it is and know when the times are. If you go to that corner around the times that they usually donate, which is like 7:15 on Wednesdays and 4:30 around on Thursdays and all of that. On Saturdays, I think it's 11. It goes around the corner. Yeah. So like lots of people are coming to this place. So if you just take that out, that's a very hard thing to replace and takes a long time to replace. So there's a lot of trust that's within the community, and a lot of hardworking people just trying to make that work. So I guess this is my question is like, is there not some kind of like this is a service that the community, that the church is providing, a financial service you can kind of quantify almost. You really want to count up. You want the church to give numbers in terms of like, here's how much money that these grocery stores and Bo's Bagels and these places are actually giving to us, so that they can kind of like, obviously some of this food will get thrown away otherwise, but they do something to get the count for themselves. That's money that then the community just distributes out. That's like money that's directly in the community that's now being like essentially taken away. I feel like that has to account. There has to be some kind of way of accounting that for that in this calculation. That money that just put directly by Fort Washington service. So the idea that like the owner of the property can just say, well, I would like my flesh, and just kind of feels a little, and then you can't put that into the calculation at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can quantify the damage to the.
I would imagine so. Yeah. I mean, like it's hard. I mean, yeah. I mean, certainly there are tax receipts that the fridge is providing to some of these organizations. So that's one part of it. I think it's kind of hard with Al-Anon and all that other stuff, but like, but still, like, yeah, it's financial harm, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And so that was my point earlier around. It sounds as if, and I want to, make sure that I'm not speaking for the committee, but at least the vibe that I'm hearing from those who have spoken is that obviously this is something really important and that we do want to kind of put forward something. I would like, in terms of tweaking it to make it stronger, again, that bit about the impact. So what is the loss to the community? And it's clear, there's so much information here. I think also if we can, I know there's the change.org petition as well. We can, kind of add a bit there. I know there were a lot of people that came out to the general meeting as well. And then I know, so I guess my point is around
what we as the community board can and cannot say as well in the resolution as well, because obviously there are certain parameters and lines, because ultimately we're not, it's not for us to hold accountable the, kind of the church consistory, but more so elected officials. However, that being said, I have seen the community board put forward letters of support. And maybe that's something that we can do using exactly this and say, we've had members of the Fort Washington Collegiate Church and wider community members come, and we as the community board also realize the impact of something like this. And we stand with them in, calling for these demands. So we'll just have to like tweak it a little bit. But just want to kind of to flag that. I'll need to check with our parliamentarian in terms of how that's done, because we want to make sure that it's there. And we can also make sure that all the electeds get it as well, assuming it passes. That's such a, I'm assuming it will, but so I have to say that.
But is there a full kitchen in the church?
Yes.
Yeah, there could be like a culinary school. Right?
I'd sign up.
Affordable housing.
Yeah.
Is very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
We see how hard it is to make that happen.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're going to convert any of the existing property doesn't make any sense to me, quite frankly, because again, it's just, we see how hard it is to convert office buildings, right? Where you've already got squared off spaces and you've got floors and you've got elevators. Here we're talking about 100-plus-year-old property.
Correct.
But if there's a full kitchen, who's put the word out, right? To this industry. I mean, there could be an incubator that would be around a culinary skills. There's ways to make use of resources that exist.
If I can build on that, DYCD, so the Department of Youth and Community Development, a lot of what they do is, so they have, they receive kind of federal money, and they do have lots of grants. They're normally through organizations, so it wouldn't necessarily be through a church itself, but again, there are ways to kind of, work out these partnerships. And a lot of what they want to do is, and a lot of their aim in terms of their work are things like creating these opportunities for people in communities to start new careers, for example, like you said, Lori, as a suggestion. Can it be like a youth hub of some sort? So that's also something to look into. DYCD or commercial side as well. Yeah.
Start a catering company. And they need, they'll pay some rent.
Yep.
And they could graduate, but they don't want to have to undergo they can't afford to build their own new kitchen. But if there's an existing one, to move on from there. That's just the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. It sounds like there was some initial kind of brainstorming, correct? Or, brainstorm in terms of types of ideas to put in, it sounds like, they unfortunately rejected some of those.
If they do continue to reject these ideas, is it then the church, then the individuals who are part of the board then just have to operate themselves and then all these strategies stay open? That the church themselves, the people who are part of the individual Fort Washington board, they have the church. They would then have to assume ownership essentially.
They're being evicted. Like the local board itself, it would be dissolved. So it would just be the 3 remaining congregations, and there would be these 3 congregations in the Upper West Side, that would then own this space. And Fort Washington, the congregation.
Oh, I see. So we need to, I see. So they're putting up a number in terms of how much it. So it's transparency in terms of because the transparency would be essential for who buy it too. They'd have to be.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do that. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna sell, but
No, I know, but they'd have in a business arrangement where you're saying what's the actual value of the property, what's the number? They'd have to have. Put down for that.
Yeah. And like we're all talking right now, it's clear that this space has so much potential and currently is a vital community resource. But again, we're not going to be able to do any of these things and continue accessing these resources if it shuts down on June 30th. So really asking for, like community support to, be able to continue these conversations and continue exploring creative strategies for the church. And so we're also kind of trying to do that through press conference on May 8th. So we're asking, all of the elected officials, May 8th at 6 p.m. And so we're going to ask all of the elected officials to please come and show their support for the Fort Washington Collegiate Church.
That was gonna be my next question. I was like, have you engaged local media?
Also a polling location.
Yes, it is also a polling location.
So many things. In terms of the process, so is there kind of an additional meeting that's meant to happen, or they've kind of said June 30th and that's it, and now it's like rallying all the support to say, no, actually, please rescind this, extend the deadline. Is that right?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the vote was what, April 1st? And that was determined that then it would close on June 30th. So yeah, so right now we're trying to rally support and really show that no, this is a resource we need it in our community, and losing it, it's going to be hard to get it back. What day is it? It is a Thursday, I believe. Yes, Thursday. Right now we're imagining on like the front of the church.
I do believe there's an additional date coming up of May 20th, which will be the consistory's next convening. If my understanding is correct, where the final vote that'll potentially like just dissolve the congregation. So that even before June 30th, we can make sure that we're active and engaging the board before that final vote.
That final vote. That's why I was asking, because the way our calendar works is that for resolutions, they are passed at the committee level. So that would be this evening. We do have quorum, so we have which is good. And then it then goes to the full community board, I think on the 27th. It looks like that's the date for the full community board meeting. So that's after the date that you need it by. There is an executive committee meeting on the 19th, but that's Tanisha, I'm looking at you because you're on the exec with me. So they're saying that if you can just double check and confirm that, because the May 20th, exactly when like the final that is it. Okay. Okay, got it. So what I was saying is, obviously as the committee, we would need to vote on it that, we support this with kind of, again, some of the amendments that we discussed. It will kind of strengthen it, but it does then need to go to the full board. But because the full board is after the 27th or after the 20th, excuse me, it would need to go to the executive committee, which is on the 19th in the evening. It's a little tricky. Sorry. Yeah, I need to ask our parliamentarian to see what we can do. Tiffany, is this to speak on this item?
No, but I have a preschooler that has to be in bed. Sorry. I thought it was just a follow-up. So whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. I think we're almost done with this agenda item, and then I can turn it over to you, and then we'll do red guidelines board after. If you have a few minutes, but I know how it is because I have little ones too.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thanks.
So what's the problem?
Sorry?
What's going on with the reso?
So the issue is the timing. That's the problem. So we have to vote on it as a committee this evening.
Right. Do we have quorum?
We do. Yes,
Okay.
we do. So that's good, but it then needs to go to the full board. but the issue is that the full board is on the 27th. And they've just shared that like the final vote or the final meeting is on May 20th. So it's before the full board can vote on it. Executive though is on the 19th, but again, that's still cutting it close. But Lori suggested let's have a chat, and I'll need to check in with our parliamentarian and the staff to see if there's something else. Like maybe, it's not necessarily a resolution, maybe it's a letter, if there's something. No promises. I have to check, obviously.
I think we could probably write a letter saying that it's going to board, that we approved it, the committee approved the resolution, and that it's going before the committee board, and we see a favorable outcome, that the community board will be with us. It's just the timing, but I think a letter could definitely
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we'll pick that up offline.
I'm sorry, can someone just tell me?
How do I blur the background?
Oh, sorry, hold on. Thanks, Anisha. Jay, I think that was you, right?
Yeah. The May 20th deadline, what is this deadline for?
So May, do you want to explain it again, Emily, if that's okay?
So May 20th is when the greater board, so the consistory board. So the collegiate is basically made of 4 different churches. So it's Fort Washington, Marble, West End, and the other one. Middle, I think. Middle. And so they're all 4 representatives that meet. And on May 20th, while they've made the decision already to close Fort Washington Collegiate Church, on May 20th, they will meet as board in order to officially dissolve the Fort Washington board and basically continue moving forward with closing the church on June 30th. So we want to make sure that we have something before then to present and hopefully have them resend that vote during that May 20th meeting.
Do you have anything else?
I was sorry. I was texting Catherine because I was trying to see if she can approve a resolution prior to the 19th. But she's telling me that it really depends what's in the resolution.
Okay, thank you for checking with Kathy. Yep. Okay.
Because if the full board, when it comes to the full board afterwards, if people have issues, they can do a motion to rescind it.
Yeah, and based off of the feedback that was at the last general meeting, I don't think so, but obviously we still need to go through that process. And yes, you are right. Thank you, Jay, because I have seen that happen in the past. So what Jay was explaining, I'm not sure if you missed it, was that there are instances where we can have our board chair, Kathy, I know you met with her last month, who can kind of sign off on a resolution and kind of bypass the community board, but obviously it would still kind of need to kind of come back for a final vote. So we'll kind of check into that and see. Wonderful seeing you. Thank you, Lori. I know Lori mentioned something about, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna make a suggestion to solve the problem.
Go ahead. And then I know Indiana wants to speak as well.
I think there's 2 things I wanted to add to this resolution, but I think it should be separate because I think this can muster the full board.
Yep.
Because I wanted to see if we can call for a public hearing through our committee at the church with the people, ask them elected staff representative to attend, and help have them help bring folks to the table to at least explain what's going on to the people that go there.
To add it in the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what I'm saying, we could do 2 separate resolutions, one calling for what this has now and the other one to add that, because I don't know if that will muster through the full board.
Okay, yeah, let's definitely take that one and think about it. I'm also cognizant of the summer break as well, so there's also that. But let's
Go ahead. Planning to go to the land use meeting.
Good.
Next fall.
Land use Oh, yeah, it is next week. Today's the first.
Right.
Usually, yeah, because usually land use meets before us because of the timing. And Wayne, so Wayne's the chair of land use. He was copied on all of this and he's aware
Okay.
as well. So we can kind of do it jointly. Okay, awesome. Indiana?
Thank you. I'm also on land use too, so I can help remind and bring it up. I had two ideas. One of them was even if we can't get the reso passed in time, we do have those emails that get sent out. So maybe we can at least put the press conference date in the emails. And I think they usually go out maybe once or maybe twice a month, if not more. And so maybe we could at least get the press conference date out into the community. And then if you guys have like a Facebook page or something, we may be able to include like a link to where people can get more information. And then the second idea I had was it's actually kind of building off of Jay's idea. Like, have you guys reached out to maybe the borough president or any of the other elected officials directly? Right now it's an election year, and so they might be even more interested to hear from constituents in certain groups.
Yeah, so we've definitely been asking all of our community members who are interested in supporting this to call their elected officials. So we've provided a sheet with their names and their information, and
Okay, great.
hopefully they're out there doing that right now. So yeah, so that is part of the plan, and continue engaging with our elected officials and asking them to publicly support this.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I'm just recognizing the time, and we still have two other agenda items, including rent guidelines board. I'm not sure if you saw that they're proposing to increase rent for rent stabilized apartments. The rent guidelines board already put forward their proposed, yeah, exactly, lots of booze. Their proposed range, what is it like? It was like 2.4. I don't have it in front of me. It's like 4.4 for 1-year leases, then it's like 4.5 to 7.75% for 2-year leases. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So we have to discuss that. So I want to be mindful of our time. No, but this is really important. So I guess I just want to kind of close the loop on this. It sounds as if the committee supports the resolution. So we do need a proper motion to vote yes, or kind of just vote on the resolution ahead of us. Obviously, we still need to work out the mechanics of it. If committee members are okay noting, again, the deadline that we spoke about, the options are either to have Kathy as board chair sign it pending committee approval, and then obviously it would then go to the wider community board at the end of the month, or some type of letter of support. We need to figure that out. And kind of keep you all in the loop and work with our parliamentarians to sort that out. So with that, can I get a motion to, thank you. Second. Oh, thank you. I'm not gonna roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Any opposed? Still have to say it. Any abstentions? Okay, great. So it passes. So something will be coming forward from us. It will certainly be based off a lot of this. I will ask again if you have any more numbers. So for example, the number of people that showed up at the general meeting, kind of a ballpark is fine. The number of signatures on the change.org petition would be great. And any other kind of information that you may have. If you could, yes. And then that way we can strengthen it. And then we'll get back to you as well to kind of confirm what format this takes in. And before you go, I do want to kind of just flag something for you regarding the borough president's office as well. But I see, Indiana, you have your hand up.
Yep, I just wanted to share one quick thing. My recommendation is to try and get before the other boards.
Yep.
Because not just land use, right? Because you can talk about like the community aspect and youth and all of that. And then you can start talking to them and showing them drafts of the resolution before the executive board meeting. And then the chairs will already have much more perspective on what the reso is. Thank you.
No, 100%. So just as an FYI, I did flag this for all of the executive board committee members, all of the chairs of the committees. they do know that we're discussing this evening, then part of the kind of, again, strengthening it is pulling on those other bits and pieces. So the public safety bit, it touches on land use, it touches on youth and education, parks and cultural affairs, all of those things to really highlight that. So yeah, thank you.
Those are your 4 committees of all the committees.
I mean, if you want to go to them, and they already know that this is happening. And so my plan is to include a language that also says, you know, this supports youth and education. This supports land use. This, you know, this supporting, you know, how do we think about public spaces, public safety, parks and cultural affairs, you know, the garden and all of those things. So you're more than welcome to if you want to, but I'm saying they already know. So it's up to you. It's up to you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. Checking. Okay, so that Tiffany's still here. All right. I'm sorry. I just need 1 minute. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, thank you. I do want to be cognizant of the time. It's already 9:06. And again, we already have 2 other agenda items. So Tiffany, I know that you have to go. I'll turn it over to you for 5 minutes and then
great.
we'll go straight to Rent Guidelines Board. Over to
Great.
you.
Thanks so much. Should I be promoted somehow, or can you?
Do you need to present something? Oh, here, let me promote you. 1 sec. Hold on. Make it
Sure.
easier. Okay. While you do that, I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank I emailed this a few days ago. I'm not sure if you have it in front of you or if anyone received it.
I don't remember seeing that. I probably need to recirculate it. Let me send it now to the committee, but go ahead.
Okay. I've actually presented this 2 years ago to Community Board 12, the Housing Committee. So this is kind of just a follow-up to see, because at the time when I presented in June of 2023, yes, I understand that the summer recess was about to happen, so I guess it wasn't really on folks' mind. But in a nutshell, this is about the HPD grant. That's the Housing Preservation Department. It's actually not from HPD. The funds really are from the federal government, from HUD. But yeah, there it is. Great. Thank you. But what HUD does is it disseminates the funds to different municipalities across the country. HPD in this case is the agency that handles it. And basically, one of the biggest barriers to home entry. So a little background, Black and brown home ownership is at a record low. The first several paragraphs, although I wrote it 2 years ago, it's every bullet point here is as relevant today as it was 2 years ago, except for the part about inflation. But I'll skip a lot because I know we're at the end, but I just wanted to highlight, for example, the larger paragraph, the middle of the paragraph, $336,000 is the average net worth for a homeowner compared to only $5,700 for renters. There are many other issues. We know that housing is one of the biggest issues afflicting New Yorkers, not just in the city, but across the state, really across the country now. We have a nationwide housing crisis. So the combination of that, plus the fact that, as I said before, Black and brown home ownership is at an all-time low. The fact that the down payment is often the biggest barrier to entry, among other things. The fact that our salaries have not grown, have not kept a pace with all of the other living expenses that we have. These are some of the reasons why I am urging the city to reconsider this program. This can be a wonderful program. It can also be a nightmare. So it can be a dream for some or a nightmare, but it's really because of HPD that it's become a bit of a nightmare. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Beyond the data, the average duration for the application processing time is about 6 months. And in my case, it took 7 months because of nonsense that I'm not going to go into details on. But there are a number of nonprofits that are tasked with the responsibility of reading through or processing the application. The documents that are required to process the application are the same documents that the financial institutions like the banks require. Yet a bank will take 4 weeks maybe to process that to issue a mortgage. Why does it take the city so ridiculously long? And we spend so much money on everything, like education, for example. Everything costs so much. The homelessness industrial complex is another profiteering scheme. And yet, what is the output? Right? So these are questions that we need to ask. And then the other issue is the application fee is $850. Try to wrap your minds around the fact that this is a program that is earmarked for low to moderate income people to encourage them to become homeowners, right? The barrier is the down payment, 20% of the total purchasing price. And yet they're charging almost $1,000 for one application. That's really profiteering. I'm just calling a spade a spade. So what I am asking for in this resolution is, number one, reduce the application fee from $850 to $250, which is pretty reasonable. Some people on Community Board 9, which I was a member of, Housing, Land Use, Zoning, our co-chair, Signe, was actually saying $50 an application, which I don't have a problem with. But I'm sure the resistance I would get from the city, so I figure at least $250 is kind of a happier middle ground. The second thing I'm asking for is a more reasonable processing time, because think about it. If you are a seller, especially if it's an issue where like a parent passed away, you need to move, you need to sell this house or this apartment, right? A lot of these co-ops and condos charge maintenance fees. Who wants to be racking up all these, incurring all these expenses? So they're trying to sell. They're going to move on from you to the next buyer who doesn't need a grant, kind of like a voucher, who doesn't need this, that's holding them up. So those are the two things I'm asking. They should cap the processing time to 2 months. And if someone has already submitted their paperwork, this is actually something that happened to me. We submitted the paperwork. We're sitting here waiting on pins and needles. And let's say, everything goes through. Don't penalize the person after, like, let's say they have to close. Because think about it. You have another apartment that you have to leave as well. So don't penalize that applicant by then denying their application and saying, oh, you already closed, sorry. So that's kind of the nutshell. There's a lot to go into. I'm concerned about corruption, but I'm not going to get into that today. There's actually a lot of problems with the program, but focusing on the positive, this can be a wonderful thing. I myself have gone through it twice. The first time was in 2016 and the second time in 2023. Happier ending to the 2023 application. So that's it. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Tiffany. Appreciate you coming back to the community board and sharing. I do remember when you presented on this a few years ago, so thank you. And then I would need to check. I don't think, I can't recall if we put forward a resolution as well on this after your presentation. I honestly would have to check and see. I don't know. But I do want to kind of give committee members a few minutes to, if they have any questions, please no more than 5 minutes. Let me see. I'm not seeing any from the committee. Any members of the public have any questions for Tiffany or about this program? Jay, please.
Yeah, just you mentioned that the funds actually come from HUD.
Yes.
Um, and but the fee for the application alone, that's just decided by the city.
As far as I understand, yes. I don't think HUD micromanages like that. That's HPD.
And could you just sort of explain? You said that the process takes too long. Are there like costs you're also inheriting while you're waiting?
Yeah, absolutely. So co-ops and condominiums charge maintenance per month. That doesn't get put on pause because you're in the middle of a buying or selling process. If it's a single family home, you have to pay property taxes on that house. None of that gets put on pause. So it's a situation where neither the seller is living there nor is the buyer living there. It's just sitting there in limbo with your application and you're racking up fees. And then the bank is also charging you fees because when you lock in a mortgage interest at a particular interest rate, they only give it to you for a certain duration of time. So if you want to, let's say you're in a period where like interest rates are low and some new fool is going to take office and there's expectations from economists that interest rates are going to soar, you want to lock in that interest rate. But you have to pay extra for that. There's a lot of fees that you rack up in the process. And I'm astounded by the fact that this is supposed to be targeting us, folks that are, like I said, low to moderate income. It's supposed to, in my opinion, we really need to address historic wrongs like redlining and all the other ways that we have been locked out of everything housing. So it becomes almost like the carrot that you dangle, but you can't ever really attain it. So, like Martin Luther King said, justice delayed is justice denied. Well, an application delayed is an application that effectively is denied because some people have given up. I know people who've given up. No one benefits in that situation. I have a lot of questions. I submitted FOIL requests to HPD because I want to know, for example, what's the percentage of people that are actually getting the loan versus those that are applying for it? And who is the nonprofit provider that goes through the program that's actually, I didn't want to say all this because I'll stop there.
Thank you, Tiffany. Jay, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, just one. Does this also apply if you weren't going through a program? Some of the fees or like, like the property tax or like if it's a co-op, the monthly fee, like when you're going through that privately, getting your own loan, does that happen to those folks too?
So if you're purchasing and you're blessed and you don't need a grant to help you with the down payment, then you would just close. The turnaround time is 4 to 6 weeks on average. That's what I'm saying is the bank takes the same paperwork that you submit to the nonprofit that, by the way, I didn't mention that there's a middleman. So when you submit your application, it doesn't go to HPD directly. They have about a dozen nonprofits that they require that you go through a workshop, a training process. You learn everything from maintenance, property maintenance, to finances, to you name it, right? You go through that workshop that lasts about a month, and then you get your certificate. Once you get your certificate, you can then go off and purchase your home, in theory, right? If you're buying this, again, the same paperwork that the city requires is the same paperwork that you're submitting to the bank, but the bank takes 4 to 6 weeks versus the city that takes 6 months sometimes. If there's a small error, instead of allowing you to correct the error, they make you start the process. They can actually require you to go through the whole application again. So these needless barriers, bureaucracy, are what slows it down as well. And it becomes, like I said, so frustrating that you don't want to continue with it. But no, you're not going to be racking up all of these additional expenses like property taxes and maintenance because it only takes 4 to 6 weeks to process a mortgage on average anyway.
Okay. I guess I would also say you should probably try talking to the city council's housing person. Because it does sound very unfair on how they make the rules, and I'm not sure. What I'm not sure of is if it's the federal standards or the city decided to make it this difficult.
I don't even hear our electeds talking about this grant existing at all. And I think that is a dereliction of duty. I'm just being completely straight. There is a lot of resources out there, and so many people that either don't know that they exist or don't understand the process of applying and streamlining the process. And they just don't. I just heard Eric Adams talking about, oh, look, there's this grant program, speaking about it as if he was the one who created it, but this program has been around forever, for quite a while. In fact, it used to be 40,000, now it's 100,000. So it's up to $100,000. No one is shedding a spotlight on it. So if you don't know that it exists, how can you know that there's a problem that needs to be solved?
Thank you, Frank.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Jay, for asking those questions, and thank you, Tiffany. I did have a look, and I did not see, it doesn't look like the committee voted on this back in 2023. So just wanted, because that's what I was checking. I guess if there are no other questions, what is your ask for us as CB12?
Right, so it's at the bottom of the same resolution. So this is the copy that CB9 had passed unanimously back in 2023. Yes. So it's the same. It's exactly the same language. The only thing that's, like I said, that's not as relevant is that the inflation is no longer the highest that it's been.
So you're asking if the Community Board 12 would adopt similar resolution.
Correct. It's the same resolution. The two asks are that the application fee at $850 is unreasonable for a low to moderate income applicant. I think we can all agree that's insane. And the second is that the processing time is far too long. It should not take 6 months on average, or I've even heard longer, to process an application that other institutions can pass in 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, my laptop is acting up.
It's okay.
Okay. So I'm sharing it here on the screen. And just wanted to get kind of committee members' thoughts on adopting or kind of putting forward a similar resolution. And again, just noting kind of those updates as mentioned by Tiffany.
I support it.
Okay, I heard that was from Indiana. So would you like to motion?
Sure, I motion to.
Okay, all of those in favor of our committee adopting a similar resolution, updating it. I think there also is a bit of just also doing our own due diligence and kind of working with Tiffany to get it ready. Vote aye or yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, not hearing no oppositions, and any abstentions? Okay, so it passes. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us this evening. We will kind of connect offline, and we'll make sure that kind of the updated resolution is sent around with the committee for input so that we have it ready then for our general meeting at the end of the month. So thank you.
Great. Thanks again, guys. And thanks for having me present at this hour. Have a great night.
Sorry it took so long, but you know.
I get it.
We got questions.
Exactly. We need to ask these things.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a good night. Thank you.
You as well. Thank you. Thank you everyone for staying so late. I recognize it's a bit later than we usually stay, so thank you for your patience. The next item and the final item on the agenda before we close out with old business and new business is the Rent Guidelines Board. So I believe I gave a little bit of a background on the Rent Guidelines Board at the last meeting, but ultimately the Rent Guidelines Board is a city body. I don't recall the exact composition just yet. I don't have it off the top of my mind, but the mayor appoints people to it. A lot of them tend to represent kind of real estate, landlords, and have those interests in mind. And then there are other members of the public who are also appointed to that board, and they are usually kind of pro tenant. There was a presentation that we did have, as I mentioned several times, by one of those pro tenant kind of members of the Rent Guidelines Board. His name is Adang from Legal Aid Society, and we do have it recorded. And I did circulate that a couple of times already, where he actually kind of talks about how to engage with the board, the process, the background of it, and all of that. So I would encourage you all to watch that. As you know, the Rent Guidelines Board, they usually start meeting kind of in the winter, early spring, and they have a series of public meetings, and they've had a series of those which I've shared with all of you. And they use that in addition to kind of, pieces of research for them to determine what the proposed range of rent increase would be for rent stabilized apartments. And I think why this makes it incredibly important for us as CB12 is that we actually are the community across all of the city that has the most number of rent stabilized apartments. It impacts me. I'm sure it impacts many of you. And so it is really, really important. I am going to share my screen. So every year, the committee always puts forward a resolution on the Rent Guidelines Board, and I did share a draft with everyone earlier today. Please note it's the one from 2024, so it has not been updated, but just the essence of it is there. So just give me one moment to pull it up and share my screen. 1 second, please. Oh my gosh, the lights are turning off on us. I know that's so time to get out of here. Oh goodness. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So again, I'm going to stress again that this is a draft. It was what was passed last year as CB12. Before we get into it, I do just want to just highlight what I shared with you. So yesterday, the Rent Guidelines Board had a meeting, and they shared their preliminary, here we go, the range. So the way it works is they'll, kind of have a range for both 1-year leases and 2-year leases. And so this is what it is for the record. The Rent Guidelines Board agreed to a range of 1.75% to 4.75% increases for 1-year leases and 4.75 to 7.75% for 2-year leases. And so what will usually happen now in terms of the process, there'll be another series of public hearings now that kind of this range is out, and strongly encourage everyone to show up, submit written testimony, all of those things. But usually the final vote is kind of end of May, if not mid-June, I think it is. And so this is why we're putting forward this resolution. As it's written here, I think one thing to note is that during the pandemic, there was a freeze where the Rent Guidelines Board agreed not to increase the rent, but the last 3 years, they have voted to increase the rent. And what I have seen from a number of elected officials is that they're calling for a rent freeze because of the exorbitant prices of things. I mean, we recognize how unaffordable New York City is. Things happening in the federal government and our local government, and New Yorkers are really being squeezed. And so I would propose to the committee that we take a similar position and that we call for a rent freeze because of a lot of those issues. I'll pause there because that was a lot of information, and to see if members of the committee have any comments or questions.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry.
I was going to throw out one quick fact I saw in the news that the landlords made like a 12% profit or something this year. So it's something that we can highlight. Like, you know, their profit is increasing. So, you know, in theory, it kind of like is a break neutral argument.
Thank you for that. I did see that. Dawn, sorry, please.
Just jump on that. Their profit increased last year. Their profit kept increasing throughout the pandemic. The only ones I saw in the 2022 or 2023 reports that didn't make any money was Core Manhattan, and those are all the luxury units which no one wants to live in. And then to top it off, I do agree with the rent decrease because even if you're a rent stabilized tenant, you only make so much money, right? And so any sort of like significant increase is gonna contribute to displacing you, and you're gonna end up in a shelter, right? So they gotta especially with not just potentially rent increasing, the cost of living is increasing as well. So now you gotta pay like $15 for eggs and also pay like 7% more in rent. It's just ridiculous.
Who are you telling? I know. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so just to kind of quickly walk you through in terms of the format, and then I also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tanisha.
Well, I guess we got the new shelter coming in 2027 that we all can go to, Chair. I don't know. But I think this is absolutely ridiculous. And I kind of want Bill de Blasio back, because at least he had the good sense to freeze the rent. And I think that in the next month, like, we need to hold a training or a hearing or something, to a teaching to help people with Describe and DREE, because we have a lot of people in our area that qualifies for that and don't even know it. And right now, that's the only thing that I can think of to combat what's coming, is to freeze people rent who are eligible. If you are disabled, if you are elderly and your income is 50,000 or below, you can freeze your rent. So I think that we need to be getting that information out, because Eric and him is crazy. I yield.
Thank you, Tanisha. And just to, again, like I mentioned, there's been a lot of electeds that have put out, statements around the rent freeze, and a lot of it saying, again, it's been 3 years of increases, like it's ridiculous. Some of the points that Tiffany mentioned earlier, wages are continuing to lag behind inflation. Again, we know costs of food, healthcare, daily necessities, people are losing their jobs. All of these things. And I guess just looking at this, which I didn't know, it's about nearly 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent stabilized homes. And to your point, Tanisha, many of whom are either low income or elderly, or, just any kind of increase is just, really, really hard for people. And so in terms of the way we've structured the resolution in the past, it's kind of usually with, a little bit around, the beginning, what it is that the actual rent guidelines board proposed. And then it goes into saying, kind of listing, and again, this was from last year, so it needs to be updated, which New York City Council members have many times they often propose a resolution in the City Council around RGB. I have not checked, honestly, and I need to check to see if something is similar for this year. I would assume so, and update that. Then there's also quoting the income and affordability study. So this is the actual report that the rent guidelines board uses to kind of say, this is why we're basing our figures off of, which to me is ridiculous. I was like, where are you getting these figures from that you're, proposing to increase people's rent by that much? Then we link it to the point of, you're increasing rent this much. This is the impact that it will have. It's displacing people. And this is why we have this backlog with all these evictions and all of these things. And then to your point exactly, Tanisha, that then leads to homelessness and shelters and everything else. And it's, it's a cycle. I'm just kind of talking about the things that we play. We talk about the poverty rates. We talk a little bit about, the New York State division, and kind of Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act, the median household income that we get. And then at the bottom, we kind of end it with the resolve of saying, because of all of these things, this is why we want, this is what we're calling for.
You know what? Can we change it up a little bit? I'm gonna do some research because what we always using the medium household income, and we know that is off by a lot. So how about we'll look up the regional index course.
So there's that, and also, Tanisha, when we passed last year the the resolution on future housing developments, you may recall that we had engaged some of the electeds and we said, we know that the AMI is completely out of whack. It makes no sense. What really, and they provided some really good data. So I'll see if I can pull some of that. Yes. And that's why, again, this is also a draft. We need to make,
because that is crazy. And even if the average 4-person household made that, it would still not be enough to live off of. I know people who make $100,000 a year and they are really struggling. So, this myth of affordability and this myth of the median household income is one of the serious problems that we have with our community actually being able to get sustaining, longing, not going to be vulnerable to all of these things, housing. So that's why I'm just really concerned about this, shelter coming in our community, because I just don't understand why we don't make real affordable housing.
I hear you. Thank you.
Some Ella housing chair, Ella.
Need to push for that. So with that, again, not just this resolution, but the other ones, they all need a little bit of work. But it's 9:36 at night. But it's been a long meeting, a very good meeting, but a long meeting. Again, just want to be clear that, at least from my perspective, I want to be, see how the committee feels, that we're going to be calling for a rent freeze and not a deduction, because this is what we had put forward last year. But I think, again, in line with what the other electeds are saying, a rent freeze in terms of what's more likely. So kind of hold that line. I just want to check how members feel about that. Sounding like a yes. Okay.
I'm okay either way, with a freeze or a reduction. Either is fine with me.
I personally like going for the whole chilada, because they always tell us that we have to accept crumbs, and we do. So for me, it's like, if not a rollback, then definitely a rent freeze. Chair, what we gotta figure out, what hill we want to stand on, or what hill we want to die on, whatever that's saying. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So for me, my vote is, roll back, if not freeze, because I got grandchildren and stuff that need a home.
Are other members okay with that?
Yes, roll back or freeze. And to add to that point, city's losing billions of dollars every month because people are leaving. They're moving to Pennsylvania.
I think we should put that in a resolution too. Whereas over 200,000 New Yorkers have left the city because, Chair, they always talking to us about they don't want to, tax the rich because those New Yorkers are going to leave, which is absolutely ridiculous, because the people who are leaving are our people.
Yeah, exactly. The ones who can't afford it, we're all being squeezed 100%. I'm comfortable with putting that. Reddy, are you comfortable putting rollback, and if not, minimum rent freeze? Okay, great. So can I get a motion for us to consider this resolution, noting those
Second.
to Who's second?
Indiana.
Okay. Good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah, I hope there's no abstentions or, opposition. I'm assuming not. Okay, great. So it passes. Thank you. Before we quickly move on to old business and new business, and if you have any points, please make it quick. Just thank you, John, for taking care of the minutes. Really appreciate it. We'll make sure that you get the recording. This is a long one, but the recording is available to help out. For the 3 resolutions or the 2 resolutions in the letter, again, we need to figure that out. Please, if you're able to help, please help. So I'll send them around, and if you're, we can do like a Google Doc or something to get everyone's input and get them to where they need to be. So thank you all. With that, just moving quickly to, I don't think there's any more electeds on the line. We already spoke about that. Monthly community updates from CBOs. I don't think we have anyone online for that. Just checking. I'm not seeing anyone. Okay. Just a thank you to the members of the public. There's a couple of members of the public online. Thank you. Thank you. We hope that you continue to come to the meetings. Any old business? No. Okay. Any new business? Okay. I just have one, which is, again, it's budget time for, the city, the mayor put forward the proposed budget. Engage, do take a look. There's a training that, good evening, that the New York City Independent Budget Office is hosting a couple of trainings on how to, look at the proposed city budget and how to engage in it. So I'll send that around so you can participate in that process. Anyone else has new business?
New business, yeah. Also, I'm gonna send it to y'all. They had a mayoral housing forum this morning at New York University. It was very interesting. Yeah, so send that link out so people can see it.
Yeah, no, please do. Thank you. All right, and then I guess we can adjourn. I guess the only other thing would be, I think I've shared with all of you, I am stepping down from the community board. It's been a long but wonderful and sometimes hard 5 years of dealing with really hard issues. But it's honestly been a pleasure and an honor to work alongside all of you and those who were, kind of here in the past. I've learned so much. And I hope that we can all kind of continue to work together, even, if I'm not on the community board as just a community resident. Because I care about our community as much as you all do. So just wanted to share.
Thank you, Chair. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. And may I say that I appreciate all my committee members, and this was an amazing meeting. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Tanisha.
second that, Chair. You've been amazing.
Thank you, everyone. Honestly, a true partnership. Really appreciate you all. Thank you for all you do. And with that, would someone like to motion to adjourn, please?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Amazing. Thank you. So we adjourned at 9:43 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. I'll be in touch with those different items. So thank you again and take care.
Thank you, Chair. Get home safely.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.